And also this award, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
The recording started.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Establish a quorum.
Commissioner Atherton,
Yeah, good.
Commissioner Fellow, or Chair Fellow, and Commissioner Blair.
Yeah.
Noting Commissioner Adams is absent.
Yeah.
No.
So that's not a forum. That's not a forum, and you can't conduct business if it's a 7C.
No, it's not, it's a 5-seat commission.
Okay, oh, it's 5C.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I thought we were okay with 3.
We're gonna get down the road on doing stuff and then have to redo.
Right, previously was done, yeah. it was done. I think, yeah, but-
So I'd like to open for public comments on items not on the agenda. And are any of the cards that I have specifically for that purpose, for public comments not on the agenda? Yeah. So, and then Alice, yours are not? Yes. One is that and one is another agenda item. Okay, so then. And Gary, you're about the nomination?
Nomination.
In alphabetical order, maybe?
Chair, did you want to put any time on this or anything, or? I know we're-
I'd say 3 minutes.
Okay, so just to clarify again, Chair, so I am speaking on 2 different subjects, not on the agenda, but would you prefer that I only do 3 minutes, or 3 minutes per subject?
Given what we want to talk about, you think it's reasonable to do both in 3?
I think,
You get to make 2 comments on items not on the agenda. You get 1, sorry. 3 minutes or less.
Okay.
so let me know when I'm starting.
Starting it. Yeah.
So, thank you for entertaining us this evening. I have written to the Historical Commission on 2 concerns. One was the revisions to the landmark, Heritage Orchard DPR HR number 15 that was filed by the city as part of the February 6th proceeding. And I would really encourage you to, provide the opportunity for the public to comment on that DPR. It was quite a bit longer than what we had been previously recorded, and there are some inconsistencies with it. And I think the sources for that particular DPR were not complete. There were missing items that even are included in our own history museum collection that speak to the historic orchard. So I would ask you on that to please go through the process that we normally do with all historic resource inventory, and have a potentially a study session, and then provide the public an opportunity to vet that document. It stands as part of our primary records. I think it's very important to ensure that it is accurate and that we have community buy-in. And then the second item too is also related to actions that happened on February 6th, is we just recognized that there was not a historic resources assessment of the Civic Center buildings. And the Civic Center buildings are not currently part of our historic resource inventory because they did not qualify back in 2012. But it's been 13 years and they are well qualified now to be considered historic. And as we in Preservation Action League in Los Altos, we've been doing quite a bit of research. And there is really, and I also wrote you a letter with some introductory information on Ernest Kump, who was the architect. And we've really learned that he's significant not only in the region, but in the world for his contributions to mid-century modern architecture. And we really do think the buildings and the campus setting deserve the recognition and study of being considered as historic resources and added to our inventory, potentially at least go through the practices of that. So I would offer there too that at a future agenda item, you include that as something to consider. In the meantime, we are moving forward with working with professionals to get information. We'd be happy to work with you and gladly provide you anything that you learn. I will be doing some archival study, deep dives tomorrow at UC Berkeley, or Berkeley actually has quite a chunk of information on Ernest Cox. So yeah, we'd be happy to provide that information to you. It's a really incredible story that includes Frank Lloyd Wright visit here, and some other recognized figures that we already recognize. But I was surprised to learn that Ernst Kamp actually, even in his day, was noted as one of the most significant architects working in the Bay Area. The one time, and I would appreciate that consideration here for future studies. Thank you so much.
Supposed to use something hourglass, and not read.
Sorry. You can use,
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Mayor Daley over there as your liaison. I shouldn't be taking the full 3 minutes. I also I'm speaking on behalf of myself and also the Palo Alto, the Los Altos Preservation Action League. I've got a couple questions for you, and I know that you can't answer them unless you have discretion, the budget discretion to do that. I wonder if any of you have walked over around the Civic Center Orchard area in the last 2 to 3 weeks. There has been a contract add-on for the Los Altos Youth Center project from the plans developed in 2023 and 2024, which according to Nick Zorn, I'm the only one in Los Altos who has it, but I had given it to this commission and other commissions after public records request last summer. So it looks like the HVAC, concrete pad and fence area on the original plans that I got last summer in July, looks like it's doubled, maybe even tripled in size with the new concrete pad. So that's a significant add-on. Although I know the city hall likes to call that stuff flat work, even if there's a 6-foot-high fence around it, and staff discretion doesn't count for project size according to them, which is kind of interesting. So I urge you to walk around and see what's going on there, particularly the concrete work for not just Lacey project, but also the Lally Library patio that's going to happen, and all the extensive open trenching and boring for new utility lines that's been going out. And even what the city council admits is the traditional historic orchard area. I really urge you to walk around there and get your eyeballs on it. And also ask staff for all the contract add-ons and all these contracts, including not just the Lacey and the Lolly patio, but also the dog park mitigation plans for the parking spaces that will be lost for the dog park. Because there's on at least one set of plans that I saw, there were encroachments into the orchard for new parking spaces, at least 3 to 4 parking spaces on one plan. Just simply putting paving on orchard land is kind of interesting. Let me see. So anyway, thank you very much, and I'll talk later about it in a room thing. Nice to see you all for here.
Other people interested in speaking? No comments are not on the agenda. So we have one item, and that's the consent calendar. And that would be the historical commission meetings from January 27th. Yes. Which you have any discussion on those minutes? Did you have anything, Doctor?
No.
You have anything on the minute? Pretty straightforward. Yeah, I read them through, I didn't see anything that needed. Do we have a motion to, approve them?
Public comment. There's a card.
So there was. You had two for items not on
Oh, no, I'm sorry, so, yeah, I had for, items not on, item not on the agenda and for item number 1 was the second.
the,
So, yeah, sorry, that's misleading.
okay. So do we open for public comment?
Yes, so for every item, there's generally not a staff report, so then,
Okay.
public comments and then close for discussion of the commissioners. So I'm gonna move.
For the minutes.
Yes.
So I will open, for public comment on the minutes from January 27th. And Maria?
So thank you once again. And I actually am addressing item number 1, not as the minutes from January 27th, but the missing minutes from February 6th. I noticed today that you have met, this is your first meeting after the February 6th meeting. And you are not provided an opportunity to approve the minutes for your actions of that meeting. So I was just asking, Sean Liaison earlier, to clarify when you will consider the February 6th minutes and whether you can even move forward tonight. I don't know as a course of business, without having approved the minutes from your most recent meeting. And then I just, again, wanted to just point out that the expectation from the public would be that this would be the meeting at which the public could comment on any decision made by the Historical Commission on February 6th, if that makes sense. So, and then also as part of CLG, the Historic Commission is required to submit their minutes to the state of California. And so if you move forward without assessing and approving the minutes from the action of February 6th, then the record to the state for the certified local government isn't accurate. So just if, again, I would encourage you to ask for clarification on how that meeting and those actions will be approved by your body. Thank you.
So the CLG status and the report that goes out runs from September 2023 to October 2024. So the only minutes that have to be provided are for that time period. We provided the CLG report after you approved it in January, and with that, we provided the minutes for that period, September through October. The minutes from November through September 2024 to this 2025 will come out in the 2026 CLG report. So we're in full compliance. In regards to the minutes, the commission handbook does not require that the minutes that be approved directly following the subsequent meeting, and so it will be before you in the next meeting in August. So we'll have that for you for consideration. I apologize for what, but it'll be.
And we close the public discussion and turn again to our discussions, if any. And we'll go down and see if there's anyone who have comments. And you didn't. I do not. Do not.
No comments.
Yeah, and I didn't either. And then we have a motion. Does she need to re-motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Actually, it's the
January 27th.
January
27th.
Do I have a second?
second.
Commissioner, all in favor, so Commissioner Atkins,
Atkinson.
Atkinson's time. I didn't see that, I apologize.
That's okay. I'm in favor of that.
I'm Commissioner. Commissioner McGuire.
So next we have discussion. Begin discussion of the Historic Preservation Award. Does the staff like to provide a report?
Yes, very short. I mean, so, this is an annual report, that's, existing basic council resolution, in 2012. This has been an ongoing annual event for the commission to nominate the historic preservation, winner. This year we've received, 4, nominees. And, as indicated in the short staff report, staff does request that in order to qualify, each nominee to qualify, they need to meet particular criteria for listed in the report. Staff this concludes staff presentation. Unless you have any questions.
Any questions for staff on this subject?
Oh, also, I apologize. There are 2 letters that are provided to each of you that are for Walter Chapman's nomination. So there are 2 additional letters.
In addition to the material we already received.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask, an anonymous nomination, is that? Just don't understand. Why or how. Nomination without attribution. We consider. Nothing against the nominee.
That's Chris Webber.
Yes, the discretion of the commission. I mean, there's no specific requirements. So we received it, we provided it in the packet, because we did receive it. And so as far as record, we provided it to you, to your discretion, if you would like to accept that. Or consider that, or appoint them to be the additional board member.
I just find it curious.
Yeah, it was brought up. Dropped
More
off.
correctly, I am curious.
We have no idea who, brought this.
And why they wouldn't do it for attribution.
You have reservations about accepting?
It's just a point of curiosity. I'm not sure I can read anything more profound. I'm not gonna call it a profound concern, but at the same time, I don't understand why we would not have nominated, the nominator, step forward. Clearly, they're trying, somebody is, you know, they will be under a spotlight, if you will, since we're considering them for this award. So it's just a strange step in terms of process.
And I don't have any speaker cards from anybody speaking to this nomination, so it looks like they're going to remain anonymous. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I too was surprised to see that, but I don't feel that should rule out that candidate for the award.
I believe there's only that one letter.
Yeah. Can you confirm, we do have speaker cards for this item. You were referencing, we did not have a speaker card to receive it, correct?
do have a speaker, okay. Yes, I have one, I have three cards. So, Mr. Hedden, Ms. Mansell, and Ms. Bautista.
Yeah, specific for that problem.
Ms. Mansell, are you speaking to this property, the Fusilla property?
No.
No? Are you?
I just would like a comment that addressed all of them, so is that, I don't know when it would be most appropriate to, I guess it's, it's yeah, so, but you'll consider all of, are you gonna consider all of them before you make any recommendations, or are you gonna do them one at a time? You see what I'm saying? It's one agenda item, and there's 4, like, nominations, so I don't know how best to provide you my input.
My druthers was to go through each individually to honor them in a way and respect that, you know, all of them do represent contributions that people have made. So so if you want to make an overarching comment about all of them, I would probably wait until we've gotten all of them, and then you can, and then as part of the wrap up, you could talk about your discussion or your thoughts. Is that okay?
No, that makes sense, yeah, as long as it precedes any sort of,
Both.
well, exactly, yeah, that's perfect, yeah.
So yeah, so apparently we do not have any speakers on this. Okay, let's proceed. I think we've got this straight. So should I open, so say for instance, if we're going to go through these one at a time, should I do a public presentation and then have the public present first on one and then we have discussion on one? Or should I wait on our discussion until we've done all 4?
So generally in the past, I mean, it's your prerogative and the commission's prerogative how you want to manage that. If you want to do it one by one. In the past, it's traditionally been discussion about all of the individual items, but either one, it's your choice, but how you recommend.
Okay, I'm thinking if this is okay, what I'd like to do is go one by one in the order that you sent them. So, and then, if no one's here to speak, that's fine, but then if there is, that'd be great.
That sounds good.
I think from a process standpoint, thinking of, you know, the strengths of each of these nominees should be examined, and then we'll consider them all as a whole, and perhaps pick one or not. You don't have to pick anybody.
That's true. Very true. Okay, so let's discuss the Fusilla family nomination. And there is no public comment on it. So I'd like to hear from the commissioners, what they found compelling about this one. But first, what I would like to do is clarify the criteria for selection. And there's 4 criteria that the nominees need, are considered on. Number 1 is demonstration of pioneering or innovative efforts in historic preservation or education. Number 2 is conformance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic rehabilitation. Number 3 is public benefit received. This can be educational, it can be beautification, advocacy, etc. And then number 4, the impact to the city of Los Altos. So those are the criteria we're looking at with each of these. And then I found it helpful for me to the statement that said the goal of the award is to deepen public understanding and appreciation of the city's historic heritage by recognizing efforts that preserve, interpret, and celebrate Los Altos architectural, cultural, and social history. I think that gives us kind of an idea of what we want. Okay. So we'll go down the line. Did you have comments on that?
Well, I appreciate, what the family has done to preserve that house. It's one that before this first came to the commission's attention several months ago, I had noticed as a resident who frequents that area, that it was a beautiful home and quite distinctive, quite, unique as far as I know, in the neighborhood, at least maybe in the whole town of Los Altos. I'm also mindful that when we did discuss this property earlier, there were some neighbors of the property who were concerned about the plan that was ultimately approved, to go ahead and make some changes to the law and so forth. I know we're gonna do these one by one, but I feel a little bit like I have to say something about the other three. I'm open to discussion and input and changes in my view. My first initial reaction, to be fully honest, is that I think the other three are making stronger contributions. So that's my kind of overall takeaway of this. But again, I'm open to particular points. What about this aspect, that aspect, or people to disagree with me? I'm happy to hear any other side.
Great. Jonathan?
I would tend to agree with Dina in that, this is a single property. And, therefore, the test would be a little higher, in terms of impact. And no doubt they've done well by this property, but it's a single property. So I tend to want to look at the others.
I did find potentially compelling with this was the fact that they, and I'm not sure if this has been done in Los Altos before. I kind of remember it hasn't been, when we had our meetings on it, to do the approval, was the idea of the ADU and the idea of keeping the house in the family and supporting multiple generations of family. I agree that it is only a single house, and in some cases, I could be considered up against others that have had multiple impacts over multiple properties in areas. But I do want to honor that. I think that that was that idea of keeping a family together and in the context of historic preservation, I think is potentially unique and something that hopefully will serve as a model for others. And maybe somebody who's considering doing an historic preservation but worried about what they're going to do with the family and the kids and everything, that they can use this as a model. So let's finish the discussion on that. Let's bring the discussion of the Walter Chapman. And we do have one public comment on that, Gary? Mr. Henry? Oh, we do have more than that, but we have one public.
Good evening, commissioners. The role of a good architect designer in the preservation of historic homes is important, even essential. Navigating the complex rules and regulations, as well as providing creative solutions to design challenges, gives homeowners the courage to undertake a restoration project. Over the years, the Historical Commission has recognized people, Liz Nyberg last year, the DAR 2 years ago, and a home, the one at 1365 Grant Road, in 2021, but never a designer who facilitates historic preservation. This is your opportunity to change that. And this year is the perfect year for Walter Chapman, as he is working on the most historic home in Los Altos, the Winchester Merriman House. As an added incentive, Walter, like you today, served many years on the Historical Commission. Please select Chapman for the 2025 award, and it should be just him. The tradition has always been one award per year, as that makes it special, and it is special. And one other thing, there are 2 letters of support that didn't make it into the packet for reasons that aren't clear. I'd like you to look at those. One is from John Yoon and Warren Yang on the Winchester Merriman House. And in the second paragraph, I just got a kick out of where he came up with an idea to change 2 rooms, the kids' rooms, from one enormous room and a much smaller, less usable room to 2 rooms of almost equal size, perfect for our twins. One room, however, didn't have many windows, and a lack of natural light was a problem. We solved this by adding a dormer to each room in the manner of the original dormer, already part of the house. Stylistic, everything matches. And internally, squabbles over who gets what room were living. So I thought that was pretty good. And then the other letter, this is the Morris house, which is just over on Elena, not far from here at all. He's working on that one as well. It's a big house. And he's made quite a dramatic restoration of it, but can't maintain so much of the interior, old interior, that it has that look still. Saving a lot of the leaded glass windows, single pane. The homeowners are, it's not quite as comfortable in the chilly of winter, but they are happy to do that. They love the house, and the additions that have been provided now or will be are going to help with them. Thank you very much.
Question for staff. Either of these houses that we're referring to, Winchester Merriam and then the Morris House, are those already on the register, or are they in the process of restoring to become on the register? So they're not on it yet.
No, they're not years.
Okay, both of them are on. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Okay, do we have any comments from the commissioners on this particular nomination?
Gary, does Walter live in Los Altos?
Yes,
He does?
he does. Near Rancho Shopping Center.
U.S. Historical Commission. In addition to these 2.
I like these 2 because they are projects that are currently underway.
Currently underway. But he does have a history of working on those projects in Los Altos. Yes.
We've worked on probably 6 historic, 5 or 6 historic homes with them. Whether that's probably a roof.
Any thoughts?
I find it persuasive that Mr. Chapman is the first architect designer being considered for the award. And I agree with Mr. Hesden's point that that's a key role that anyone involved in historic preservation plays. So I feel that's a point in favor of this nominee, that there hasn't been a previous architect designer who got the award. So yeah, I find it honestly.
I think that's, I like that.
I think it speaks to a dedication to the city. That he's worked here, it sounds like, for many years. Okay, any other comments on that? We move on to the third, which is the DAR. And
Again, hello to anybody watching, including Mayor Daley, if he's out there. So. I've got my name tag on for the Los Altos, Daughters of the American Revolution chapter, so I'm speaking in official capacity. I've been emailing, yesterday and this morning when I found out that Henry Stahl, our programs chair, put in a nomination, which I think we frequently do, and we think we've done something important. As has been mentioned in 2023, as a lockdown project, the local DAR chapter did a book, which you can see in your library here, about some of the first farming and orchard settlers to come to the Los Altos area. It's really great. I think there may even be some copies for sale at the museum, and Mayor Daley, thank you, said that he'd give copies to people. Because he's been a great supporter of the DAR. He came out for our 75th anniversary lunch. Here's the program in February, where he read a proclamation honoring the chapter for its 75 years of work. So this booklet was put together about what the chapter's done, the people in it. So I promised Ann I'd wave it on the video. We're gonna see it there. And it's a wonderful thing. But again, we've already won this award, and we're very proud of that. We are also looking very much forward, Ann and our chapter president talked with Mayor Daley about how we can support the city of Los Altos' official efforts to celebrate the 250th anniversary of July 4th, 1776, which is coming up fast next year. And there's a lot of exciting ideas floating around, and I particularly wanted to come to speak today as much to just support anybody who submits nominations for this award, as to hope that you'll get involved with the 250th celebrations and markings of what this place looked like 250 years ago. Now I'm going to dramatically take off my DAR badge and speak personally. I've been involved for many decades with local real estate, and as was my mother. And we were involved in 2 sales transactions of the Merriman House. So I spent countless hours in that building over the last 30 years and seen many of the remodels. And very luckily, the people who own that house have been very sensitive to it, to its history, its architecture, and needs of families. And so I think that when I read Mr. Heaton's nomination for Mr. Chapman, my mother particularly knew Mr. Chapman for many years because she was in the real estate business locally and often dealing with historic properties like the Merriman House. And so I'm sure that my mother, and I certainly am thrilled that a nomination came in from Mr. Chapman as a local professional architect, because that is certainly a very, very worthy thing. And like I say, the mayor has already given us a formal city proclamation for our 75th anniversary. And we've already won a book award, and although I'm sure we're glad to have another one. Speaking personally, I think that Mr. Heaton's nomination and other people from Mr. Chapman is extremely worthy. So thank you very much. That's why I'm in red, white, and blue today.
yes, I noticed the top, that's.
One less magazine.
Okay, any comments from?
Well, this book is certainly impressive. I've just seen it now for the first time. A lot of scholarship has gone into it. And I'm familiar with the other book that Ms. Mansell mentioned, the one about the historic settlers, which a collaborator I have at the Los Altos History Museum and I have used extensively for a project that we're working on. Has a lot of very helpful information that we couldn't access anywhere else. So I think that deserves a lot of credit. I think at the same time, I'm a little bit wondering about the fact that since the DAR received the award previously and have other strong contenders who have not had that opportunity, I'm wondering if that mitigates possibly against that, but not, it certainly doesn't mitigate against the merit of everything that they do. I'm quite impressed with them as an organization.
Jonathan?
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I like the idea of a broad scope, of this writing, covering many aspects of Los Altos over many years. And we're communicating certainly history and preservation, which is one of the criteria. And I do appreciate that wider scope. However, I do, and that's something I appreciate about Mr. Chapman's nomination also, is that it is over a wide scope of time and sounds like numerous residences. So I appreciate that about both of them. So, okay, so we have Mr. and Mrs. Bayer who have been nominated, and I'm assuming that you're speaking. No, you're doing the general. Okay, so, well, yeah. So I'll wait and we'll discuss the Bayer's nomination, and then we'll have public input on the general side. Is that okay? Okay. Does anyone have comments on the Bayer's nomination?
I think their restoration is one of the more impressive efforts in that direction. These projects can be larger or smaller. I think they have done a large project here, so that's definitely to their credit.
Quite impressive. That I haven't personally been inside it, but just the outside is really quite well done. It's clear. And I noticed there's quite a few letters of support. Little things I think to look out to.
I was noticing similar things. To me, the Bayer's dedication to Los Altos is really unquestioned, and it comes through really clear and clearly. And the number of people that have written in support, I think, is very compelling. And I certainly appreciate all that they've done over the years, in addition to just modifying their house. And it sounds like Mr. Bayer in particular has helped out others who are in that same process, which I think is a really good thing. So yeah, I think it is a strong application. And from that, we will hear from Ms. Bautista.
So I keep all the, in consideration. I just want to share with you some thoughts. I think an anonymous submission is a little like suspect, but I think you concluded that. But then I also want to just say, I love the DAR and everything that they do. I follow them religiously, but because they were recognized in 2023, I think it's a little premature to recognize them again, although I love them. And then I think awarding a designer to me seems also, there's an appearance there that could be a little bit tricky, because when someone is still in business, it almost, and being awarded, it, can almost look like the promotion of business. And so I would maybe just consider that aspect of it when you make an award to someone who's still actively in business. And as I thought about it, I think the Bayer Home provides kind of a very interesting opportunity, because I think we're in a moment in Los Altos where it would be really helpful to amplify preservation and personal agency. And as I mentioned earlier, with And since our HRI inventory, our historic resource inventory hasn't been adopted or really looked at seriously since 2012, like 13 years ago, there are a lot of people now who live in historic homes that may not have been historic then. And I think the BEAR project really does, it provides an opportunity for people to learn about, to think about what am I living in and how do I contribute to the broader story of Los Altos. And I know the Bears have been very open door on their project, and theirs fortunately is one where they really had incredible attention to detail and amazing dedication over decades, right? To bring a 1906 Victorian to a lovely place. And so again, I think that both as a project in and of itself and the way they went about sort of really following the rules of historic preservation, it's a really fine example of how one handles a project. And will be educational in the sense that it will invite other people to consider their own home. And we actually, at the Preservation Action League, I reached out to John Bear to see if he would help us. We're going to host a Mills Act event this summer to bring all the homeowners who already have houses that qualify for Mills Act, and to try and bring that community of people together again to amplify the importance of preservation as we're going through this time of very rapid change in Los Altos. We definitely want to make sure that we don't lose some of the most significant architecture that tells our whole story. Those are my thoughts on the package.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for staff. Is the point that Ms. Bautista brought up about Mr. Chapman being currently in business in town, have we awarded to a person who's in business in town prior to this? Not that it's a problem, I'm just curious. Or was Liz not, was she? I don't think
think so, you know.
she had retired before.
Yeah, some of these are way past my time, so I don't know
Sure.
some of these, but yeah, we've never had an architect or designer I'm aware of nominated or awarded.
Or a business person per se.
Or a
somebody
business
who's-
person, yes, it's usually, people who accomplish things in historic preservation, or it's physical structures. That's what they-
Is there an award vehicle within the city that comes from, say, the chamber or some other entity?
I'm not
to
aware of
recognize-
anything, but, I mean, this is the council established award for historic preservation that you select, and,
What kind
I
of-
mean, I don't see,
Right.
from staff's perspective, I mean, we generally don't see a concern with that in general. I mean, we work with Walter Chapman for 12 years or more. I've worked with him. And it doesn't change anything from a staff's perspective, and we just follow the regulations. Start to five, so. But it's about concern if you want to consider that. It's up to your discretion.
No, I was just curious. It didn't mention anybody in this context, so it doesn't sound like it.
There's nothing in the criteria that stipulates that.
I think anything that could be positive for people who might want to preserve a home, not even want to start.
Yeah.
Well, you said in relation to the Baylor's nomination, that of the 5 letters of support, 3 are from neighbors that live very close, and that to me carries a lot of weight, that the people who are right there support what's being done with that house and what has been done. And kind of somewhat in contrast to the Priscilla property, where the neighbors in the area are a little concerned about recent developments. So I just thought I'd mention that, to me, that's another point where the Bears candidacy, but I at the finishing point, and actually all four of them. I personally wouldn't have any objection to any of the four winning the award, and I asked our staff already, is there a situation where two nominees can be awarded? And the answer is no. So, you do have to choose among these four.
Yeah, in my personal opinion and based on what I've heard, I find the Bayers and Mr. Chapman's nominations as the most compelling of the four. I have a tough time between the two.
I do think
I really do. So, what you thinking? Or do you also have?
Well, I'm of the opinion that Walter's probably had a bigger impact
Okay.
over the years. And that's just because he's been in the business and dealt with multiple properties.
Mhm.
So for that reason, that is to take away from any of the other nominees.
Mhm.
But in terms of what has had the biggest impact on Los Altos, I think Walter Chapman's the answer.
Yeah, I certainly couldn't argue that point. And that is the fourth criteria, impact to the city of Los Altos, so it's certainly valid to point that out, but, I do think you're probably correct that, Mr. Chapman has had more impact than the Bears. On the other hand, the Bears house has become kind of a showcase. I mean, I think a lot of local people, and even some not so local people, are aware of that house because it is so stunning and has been so well redone. And although Mr. Chapman has likely had more impact, it sounds like the Bears, and in particular Mr. Bear, have also done other things for the city, as Chair Poe pointed out, and Ms. Bautista has invited Mr. Bear to be part of another situation coming up, if I understood correctly. And he seems like the sort of person who acquiesces to requests of that type and has helped others embarking on new remodeling of historical projects. So I agree with Chair Poe that to me it's kind of between those two, Mr. Chapman and the Bears, and I would edge just a tiny bit toward the Bears, but I'm not going to object if the word goes to Mr. Chapman by any means.
Yeah, I actually have not seen this house. So. Okay. So,
The process.
what's the process?
Well, I guess, you can, you could potentially and it's not done generally, but you could go through each of them and try to rank them based on each of the criteria and try to see how you may individually judge them on each of them, and then try to total, get some type of total to that. Like if you're ranking them, like which one is ranked higher compared to the other person. Generally, we don't have this issue. We usually have two people. That's usually one or the other, and it's very straightforward. Some in many years.
Okay,
So you can use a ranking method if you'd like. It's kind of off, but
we each wrote down 1, 2, 3, and 4. And
and then how you think of each
then
individual person.
added them up
Mhm.
when we get a.
Of the two, it appears that you're.
I think we've come down to 2. So I think it would be,
I understand, I like the objectivity of what staff has proposed in terms of coming up with a sort of a clear front runner out of the four. I do feel a bit handicapped though that some of the 4 criteria, I'm not real clear on exactly what they mean, like number 2, conformance with Secretary of Interior standards for historic rehabilitation. I don't think I've ever seen those yet. I don't really know, I mean, I can kind of guess what that means. But, it would be hard for me looking at the 4 alternatives to rank them on number 2, because I don't know enough about that.
We can always ask potentially inquiring questions of staff if you'd like to understand that. I mean,
Do you want to tell us a little more about number 2 then?
sure. So, the Secretary of the Interior standards are a series of standards established by the National Park Service to the federal government to guide development of existing historic homes. It is intended to allow homes to change and grow to accommodate modern needs and not have historic homes kind of stuck in a time period where it doesn't meet the current needs of today. And so whenever we have historic alteration permits or historic advisory reviews, we always within the staff report provide a analysis based on the Secretary of Interior standards. And we go through a series of criteria. Now, what I understand of the standards between the two, I guess, is probably at some point in the past, John Bayer's home, when he did a lot of restoration to it, went through, it's been a number of years. I think that restoration firm's home happened quite a long time ago, but it likely went through a similar process. We may not have records from that far back, but he likely went through a similar process. And then Walter Chapman, when he does improvements to historic homes, because he has to come to the historical commission, then in the past, we've hired historians to do reports on Secretary of the Interior standards. More recently, for smaller projects, staff's been doing that for them. And so, Walter's done probably dozens of them working with people. He doesn't write them, he hires people to do it for him. John Bayer's probably also done it for his project. So they both probably have achieved compliance with that at some point.
So it sounds like for criterion number 2, we kind of award equal rankings to Mr. Chapman and the Bears. Because we're saying both have kind of been through these processes.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you that. I mean, you have to make an assessment whether, on how you rank. Whether you would have to assess that and determine how you may rank that.
Is the Bear House a Mills Act house?
Yes, it is a Mills Act house.
So in order to get Mills Act, don't you have to, I'm trying to remember the criteria for Mills Act.
No, I mean, he has quite an old contract with the city. So I couldn't be clear about that. So the more modern Mills Act contract is very robust.
Mm.
And it stipulates a lot of requirements that don't apply to the old contracts.
Okay.
So, that doesn't mean Secretary of Interior, it actually applies to all historic homes, but his contract may not specifically call it out, but it's a very brief contract, so we don't hold the older contracts sometimes to the same thresholds, but through the entitlement process we do.
Mhm.
It's kind of, and you'll see that in the Mills Act reports that are coming out in August, that there's a clear difference between the two contracts.
Mhm. So it sounds like it's a difference between there being conformance in fact, which would be Mr. Chapman, and through the work that he does. I would imagine, as you said, when he has to get cleared through the historical commission and all that. So whereas with Mr. Bayers, it's more a confirmation in practice. It would seem.
More likely, I mean, because of the age of the home and when it entered the Mills Act and when the improvements occurred, I don't believe in that time period that the commission was geared towards evaluating things that deeply about the Secretary of Interior standards.
Mhm.
Secretary of Interior standards, as I took this commission over as liaison like 8 years ago, is where we kind of were making sure that was happening in detail. As we go back in historical records, it's less seen
Mhm.
for whatever reason was happening back then. But that doesn't mean his home is of course complying with Secretary of Interior standards. Clearly, we can all see that.
Okay, so, yeah, I think number 2 probably isn't gonna help us.
Between those two
A lot.
plans, yeah. I agree.
So let's look at number 1 and the demonstration of pioneering or innovative efforts in historic preservation or education. Let's say that would go to Walter Chapman. Okay.
As he's done over multiple houses, trying to preserve the exteriors, making the interiors livable. And I remember the house with the dormers, his changes actually kind of seemed to improve the balance of the house. I thought, while keeping the character of the house intact. That was very
Mhm.
I think that's a good point. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Jonathan, do you agree with?
I agree.
Did you have any other thoughts on it?
No.
Okay. So it sounds like for number 1, we lean toward Mr. Chapman. Okay. 2 is a wash. Okay, public benefit received, educational, beautification, advocacy, etc.
Kind of brings up subjectivity.
Yeah, it does.
and that's one house, kind of quite beautiful.
Mhm.
But I can't see. Really see the residence. It's written up someplace. It's gonna be- Preserving. It's good, it's good.
Yeah, I think Mr. Chapman does it more in the formal sense through his process, whereas I think Mr. Bayer, the Bayers do it on a more informal, though not necessarily less effective way of encouraging other people to go through the process. So again, do you all have any inputs on that one? That's good.
Well, it would be hard to argue on criteria number 3 that either Mr. Bear or Mr. Chapman don't qualify. I mean, they don't seem to ace number 3, but again, that's partly because this is really subjective. How do you measure public benefit? How do you measure even one of those things, educational, beautification, or advocacy? I mean, there's not objective data on those other than. So it really kind of, in my mind, doesn't really help us too much.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, certainly by the nature of the subject too. Okay, let's try 4. So impact.
Well, I think that, choosing Walter Chapman would be nice in that, it's not like it's gonna be. There are not that many people in doing what he does. So it's, whereas there will be other homeowners who will be making large efforts to.
That's a good point.
And so in that sense, I think it's nice to recognize that Walter's had a large impact over a number of homes, over a number of years.
I think that could even be in the pioneering description.
Mhm.
You know, he has come in and he's made it his mission, or at least a large part of his mission, to do this work.
Mhm. And he's been innovative in his efforts. He's working great, so.
Yeah. Okay, so seems like number 2 and number 4, we seem to lean toward, Mr. Chapman, the other 2 being more or less equal. Yeah.
So,
So should we have a vote?
We need a motion.
A motion.
I move that we select Robert, Walter Chapman as the nominee for, the recognition of receiving the Historical Preservation Award.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Who's the second?
She said it first.
Oh, sorry.
Be quick. Call for vote?
Adams,
Aye.
Atkinson,
Aye.
McGuire Names.
Aye. So again, I want to make sure the record reflects that we're very grateful for all of these nominations and for all the work that is represented by these people for the betterment of our city. We wish we could pick all 4. And obviously, you know, we went through some fairly lengthy deliberations. So I want to thank everybody who came forward in this, and I look forward to next year.
Or just acknowledge in the record, the motion was 4-0. Let's say.
Great. Okay, next on the agenda. Okay, we have 3 informational items from staff, yes?
Yes. So the Margaret Thompson essay contest, the winners were selected weeks ago. Planning staff has sent out, more like 3 weeks ago. Planning staff did send out letters to each of the parents of each of the winners for each of the grades. The History Museum last week, I believe, sent out mailers to each of the schools. And so those have been sent out. On May 12th, the names of the winners and their essays. Shouldn't say the full names, the first name only. And then the essays will be published on May 12th. And then the essay contest, Ice Cream Social, will be on May 13th. It'll be running starting from 5:45 to 6:45. And the History Museum asked for commissioners to arrive at 5:30 minimum. Unless you're the ice cream person, then you need to arrive a little earlier, and I'll be there to help you.
Who's our ice cream person?
I think it's me.
Yeah, so I can help you with that.
Thank you.
So it's May
13,
13th.
May 13th.
5:30.
We will, staff will be preparing certificates. And I'll have them available at the beginning of the week, or maybe at the end of the previous week, and so that you can sign, the chair can sign it, and then also the chair of the education committee for this meeting can sign that. And then the mayor, so how it normally works is Ice Cream Social, certificates are given out in this brief ceremony with the History Museum board and the chair. And then they ice cream, and then afterwards they walk over to the council chambers, and the mayor will give them their award checks.
Sounds good. That's a fun thing. Okay, next one.
The Millback annual inspections, so we received responses from 11 of the 17 property owners. We have sent out, we've done another 3rd or 4th mailing by certified mail this time. So If we are, and so we received responses from 3 of the 6 now to the certified mailing. And so we plan at the next meeting to provide all of their responses to you and provide a staff report regarding their status. And so that'll be coming for you at the next meeting. We should have that complete wrapped up by then. 11 of the 17, but 3 more have reached out to me. 1 has actually submitted their inspection document and photographs, and 2 others haven't. The one, if in the end, I mean, so from staff's perspective, we've been very patient. We've sent out lots of mailings, and so at this point, we're not going to send probably any further mailings out. And we will just come forward with you, with the information we have, and any of the parties that didn't respond, and we'll acknowledge that in the staff report.
If they don't respond, they will lose their status.
I mean, it matters the contract they have. Well,
Oh, okay.
potentially, I mean, so some of the older contracts, well, so a quinquennial inspection is mandated under governmental code, under state law. So all of them, whatever their age, are mandated to do inspections. Some of the original older Mills Act have a belief that some of their contracts don't require it, but that's not the case, the state law requires it. It was a matter of having a conversation with them and convincing them, which I've been trying to do. The newer contracts, of course, if they're not complying, they could lose their contract. It'll be a discussion for you, whether you want to make a recommendation on that or not. And it's the council that would have to appeal it. It's a pretty tough position. The difficulty with taking a difficult position is that they've never known about quinquennial inspections. It's not like the city has taken a hard approach about it. So staff has been trying to be very careful and reasonable because this is their first time doing this. And so we would recommend at some future date that at the next quinquennial, if they're not complying, then they've been advised in advance. And if they're not complying, then that's problematic. And maybe that's the point the commission considers, but it's really up to your discretion.
So the outcome from our perspective of that is to determine next steps and or to decide if we want to act on.
Yeah, decide your approach, whether you want to give them a pass and then mandate in 5 years that they're not complying, then bring that to the awareness of council, or whether you want to take a harder approach now. It's really to your discretion.
Okay.
We can always talk, you know, as in kind of prepping that report.
Okay. Yeah.
So that guides us.
I think there's something between giving them a pass and not giving them a pass. There's some kind of middle ground
That's right.
that one could step on.
Question? So the historic plaque program.
We received 3 requests for plaques. I happen to have 1 plaque still I have a box of like 15 plaques that recipients haven't picked up over the years. So when somebody asked for a plaque, I go through it and I found 1 that I have already. So then I told them to pick it up 2 weeks ago and they haven't picked it up. So that's an example of why I have plaques. Hopefully they'll pick it up. And so the other 2 for 1922 is for 1570 Kensington and 151 Hawthorne. We've already ordered them, and so we should get them in May, but because of how things are working, because they're produced in the Midwest, it could be early July, early June. Years ago, we used to do like a special event that's kind of died down. We usually are kind of reverting to like meeting with them, giving them, we have a flyer that gives them directions on how to install it. And it's supposed to be installed a certain distance from the front property line. It can be installed on a post, on a column at the front door, near the front door. We give them specific directions on how we expect it to be installed. So we'll give that same handout to these two parties when we receive them.
Would there be a motivation to, in an effort to try to up the excitement about the program? Maybe in the town crier or something, if the owners, approve, to put a picture in the town crier of these two properties are now historic properties in Los Altos and have been honored with a plaque or something that kind of lets the rest of the town know that.
Is that something you would like us to do? It's.
I'm just
your
asking,
direction.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
It's just something that crossed my mind in an effort to kind of boost the recognition of the program.
I don't think there's anything, I don't think that'd be problematic. We just, like a lot of the programs, we reach out to the town crier and usually do informational article about different programs, either it's the essay contest or it's this.
Right.
They're always fair and reasonable about assisting us without having us pay for advertisement.
Well, I'm used to generally, it's about without naming
Could be.
specific properties, unless the property owner wanted.
Right, yeah. Yes,
Would be out of line for me to say something.
not for me, maybe.
I know that Burton Care Ripple would probably be delighted to install a plaque and I can take a picture and send it to Bruce. And it might just end up in the paper.
There you go.
Either one.
Okay.
We could do that. If we can get pictures, maybe, maybe we can request the photographs from them. And then, see if we can get the town card to do that. They always seem ready to have all that system.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just seems to me to build a little bit of community spirit also, that we are recognizing these houses.
You can always reach to, here, it's too, we used to have a separate event at the History Museum.
Yeah.
And then there used to be an opportunity for the recipients to attend and others for properties would attend, and there would be like some food and drinks. And then speeches and things like that about properties that are restored. And then they would be given their plaques there. So that was done like pre-COVID.
Yeah, that's.
COVID
stopped so
yeah,
many things.
yeah, it's not so much. Yeah, we stopped that. We never engaged it. It ran maybe for like 3 years doing that special event. And that was started with the previous commission.
Okay.
So we could always, if you want to, that was something specially created by the commission. So we could also do that too.
Well, I think, given the timing this year, and that we're hopefully getting the plaques relatively soon.
We've been sending out these mailings for 15 years or and at the very beginning, so we got all the landmarks, and then we maybe got like 20 of the resources, and we send the same mailing, different letter, different writing every year, and every year we get one or two. And so we just peel off a few every year, but never like a mass number, which would be nice.
Right.
And it's free, and we tell them it's free, but they never respond, and,
Well, and then, so maybe putting something in the town crier this year and showing that, yes, these two families decided to do this, and this is what it takes. That, you never know.
I think that's a good idea.
you could do that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, getting message.
Okay, so that closes any of the information items, yes?
Yes, that's awesome.
And commissioners' reports and comments, does anyone have? I have one, I wanted to, recognize that you had sent us, information about trainings for commissioners. And that, because that had come up a couple times in meetings. And I wanted to recognize that we are looking into that and that you have provided that information to us. And now it's our turn, so.
And I found the camp training. It's in the very first link I sent you.
Okay.
Which I've never ever seen that organization before. Because I was searching for camp because someone mentioned it, and so I was searching for camp and I found an organization, which camp is a training program for historical commissioners. I think there's a different terminology they're using on this road profession. So there's a wonderful program through them that you can go through also. You just have to, if you find a training that you're interested in, you just let us know if there's a class. Then we can pay for the training. And then the Secretary of the Interior's training is through modules. You just go to the website and then you can watch, I think, 20-minute segments. Here's a little test. Simple test, you go back and forth to answer if you miss any. And then there's 4 modules. And so that helps you understand the Secretary of the Interior stands for rehabilitation a little better.
Thank you for sending that.
Yes, thank you for that. And I'm hoping all of us take advantage of that. So I think it, when that was brought up, I forget exactly the context, but, I think it's a good idea. Okay. Potential future agenda items. Do you have anything right now that we need to add?
No, I mean, we do, I don't have any information on it yet. In the next meeting, I think there will be a historic advisor review permit from another planner that will be coming before you.
Okay.
And then we'll have the Mills Act report for you also with all of the attachments of what they submitted to us.
Okay, there's no other business. Then we're ready to adjourn.
Still recording.